We're live. Awesome. Okay, great. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Thursday night at Living Word Family Church. This is These Final Days Ministries. I'm that good-looking guy right there, Pastor Ryan Speakman, serving under my favorite pastor in the whole wide world, sincerely, Pastor Maureen Collins. It's here for our pastor, yeah. Yep. So at least half of you in here go to other churches, but if you ever want to pop in some Sunday or whatever, Pastor Maureen is amazing, and I know when you guys applaud for her, it's sincere because you love this class so much, and she's the one that lets us do it. So yes, we appreciate her. So, but anyways, yeah, thank you for coming, everybody. Great to see everybody. We have one new person. Your name again is Cliff. Cliff. Yeah. So everybody, this is Cliff. Cliff, this is everybody. Hi. Say hi. Yep. Again, Kim brought the lovely dessert tonight, so let's give her a hand. Thank you, Kim. Yep. And we are going to have a good time tonight. So I'm going to dive right in. I want to get some mileage behind us tonight. We are working our way through the ending of Revelation chapter 12. So let's just get the ball rolling here. Like, even when I said those words, I'm like tempted to start. Except, no, just control yourself. Let's do this. Okay. So if you're watching by YouTube, and by the way, we're up to, this is amazing, but we're up between YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. We're up to several hundred people now watching us live. So if you're wanted by Interpol or the FBI, don't step in front of the camera, okay? But anyways, yeah, so welcome to our online audience also. Glad you guys are watching. If you are watching on YouTube, by the way, now or even like after we post the video later, please remember to like this video and please subscribe to the channel. The more subscribers we have, the more we can do. Also on TikTok, please, even people in this room here. And you guys, gosh, I would almost bet money that nobody in this room except me and Ben have TikTok. But if me, forget Ben. Because it's owned by China, all that. But if you happen to be on TikTok, and if you're watching us on TikTok, welcome. But please be sure to like our TikTok channel or whatever the right verbiage is. The more viewers, the better. Like I said, they actually give us added benefits. So this is our schedule. So tonight is not on here because tonight we are still in August. This is our September calendar. So exactly 2 weeks from tonight is September 5th, and we're just still on a normal schedule, shockingly. So we'll meet again in 2 weeks on I'm sorry, did I say November? September. Did I say September or November? Oh, I did. Okay, good. Okay, it just popped in my brain. I think the election's on my mind. Not you guys, right? But yeah, so again, next month, September, normal schedule. So if you're interested in learning more about These Final Days Ministries, I've been at this actively since 1999. A lot of content to share. Just go to thesefinaldays.org. I've got, 2.5 decades worth of teachings and podcasts and mission trips overseas to Africa, Kenya, South Africa, research trips to Israel, Jordan, right, Mark and Ben, and Lebanon. So some very interesting stuff. While you're there, you can click on our Revelation timeline to see the latest and greatest version of what you see here in front of you, our Revelation timeline. It's online. That's always the latest, most updated version of it. And while you're here, you can, there we are. While you're here, you can access my best-selling book series, part 1 and 2. And there's a rumor that there's a part 3 coming soon, TM. I'm telling you every day, like hours on part 3, but it's because it's the most intense and interesting and I think most important research I've ever done in my life. So it'll be worth the wait. So just got to get it done before Jesus comes back and, right? So, and by the way, this good-looking guy here, that's Pastor Jay Mutali. He's my partner in the ministry on the other side of the world in South Africa. And he and I do different stuff together. We have a TikTok that we do every other Friday, et cetera, et cetera. So, and one of these days I'm going to get back there. We got to get him here. Such a great guy. Anyways, while you're on the site, if the Holy Spirit moves you, and I mean that sincerely, always listen to the Holy Spirit, but you can click on the donate button. And recently we set up a whole bunch of ways to be able to donate to the ministry, and all these are being used. PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, just entering in your credit card directly through authorize.net, or you can even use like snail mail if you want to, lick a stamp or whatever. I put this on a couple classes back. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly supporter of TFD. And the reason I put that on there is because I realized one day I've got probably half a dozen people that regularly every month donate a certain amount to the ministry, and that helps me to plan stuff. Every penny, I'm going to pass around the offering bucket while I'm talking about money. Every penny goes directly for ministry purposes. It does not go to pay my Starbucks bill or my student loan payments or anything. So it's all for ministry purposes. If you believe we're in the last days and you dig this ministry, like I say, just, be led, hear from the Holy Spirit. But it'd be great to have you guys as partners. Listen, there's it's a weird ministry, I'll admit, talking about the end of the world. It feels in my life like there's a really interesting special blessing attached to it. And everyone who is attached to this ministry, financially, just by being here, your prayers, whatever, I thank God that you guys share in that blessing that comes for this ministry. My pastor, Pastor Maureen, we were meeting one time. We meet every 6 months. We'll finally have the time to meet for a couple hours at Starbucks or something. But she told me once, maybe, within the last year, she looked me right in the eye and she said, "You're in the most dangerous ministry on the planet." And at first I was like, "What?" And I thought about it. It's kind of true spiritually, et cetera. It is. It's dangerous. We live for danger, right? Our middle name is Danger. So yeah, the enemy does not want us talking about these things. And why is that? Because we're in the last days. We really are. I think the Antichrist is alive today. And he's got to be way younger than me, maybe Ben's age, maybe older. I'm speculating based on everything else that we know, okay, about the timeline. But he's alive today. He's living in northern Iraq. Should I go this far with my current research? And it's coming soon. I mean, the whole world is prepping for the appearance of the Antichrist. So does Satan want any of his plans for the end times being exposed? He doesn't. But do we have someone much greater than him on our side? So, I mean, do we have fear about I don't have a bit of fear about these things at all. So, and I've had some weird stuff happen even recently. Right, Ben? Ben, remember the phone call a few weeks ago? Yeah. Anyways, weird stuff happened. But it just proves that we're on the right track. So anyway, so this is today, yes, August 22nd. And I just see Greg McGay walking. Hey, Greg, welcome. Okay, so the last class, we were just starting to get into, I shouldn't say just starting to, we're about halfway through this concept of the United States of America being very prominent in the end time story. And this is true. And so many people fight me on this one, online or whatever, I mean, some of the biggest end times teachers over the last, few decades, they've actually made the overt statement that you won't find the United States of America. I mean, as big of a country, as prominent, as important as we are, you don't find them in the end time story at all. There's no mention. Of course, you wouldn't see us by name, but even like symbolic or whatever, because the rapture happens before the Great Tribulation, the reign of the Antichrist. So, United States is mostly Christian, so that means that most of the U.S. has gone up in heaven. I would debate even on that point, that most of the United States would even be included if it was a pre-tribulation rapture. Anyways, the United States of America is very prominently depicted in Daniel chapter 11, which is the story of the Antichrist. We're going to actually very soon in our study here get into a little bit of that, Daniel chapter 11. We also show up quite prominently in Revelation chapter 12, which is what we're looking at tonight. And then also even later, Revelation chapter 17, chapter 18. And all the symbolism that's used, if it's not the United States, then we still must be 500 years away from the end times. I don't think we're 500 years away from the end times. I think that if the end times are very near and all the signs are pointing to it, right, for the first time in human history by many orders of magnitude, then the United States has to be the end times hegemon. We have to be in the end time story, okay? So that's kind of the premise that we're going on. But what I want to do, so last class we actually dissected this a little bit. We've looked at this before. King Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel chapter 2, what it symbolizes. We looked at a couple of our articles, our first two articles about the American founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, etc. where they got their inspiration from when they established this nation. Like they had another nation in mind when they established this nation. But I want to start. Let's just we're going to do a very quick review, just because this is a very complicated topic. Yes, I mean just the end times in general, but yeah, this stuff in particular. So where did you go? There you are. Okay. So okay. By the way, I'm starting with this slide here. So again. If you want to follow along on your phone, or if you have a laptop or whatever, you can go to thesefinaldays.org and click on the Revelation timeline, and you'll have access to the scroll here. That might help you follow along. So anyways, where we have been working our way through is Revelation chapter 12, which I'm going to ask every time. And you guys have been getting this right, so I'm not going to pretend like, you haven't been. Or like you actually are getting credit for this class. You're getting college credit in heaven, okay? You're all earning a master's degree. But what's that?
Pastor, it was court ordered.
Is that true? Okay, I like that. Yeah, good way of putting it. So Revelation chapter 12 depicts, it's one chapter out of 22 chapters in the book of Revelation. It is depicted on our timeline here, just literally right here. That's Revelation chapter 12. And as you'll all recall, or if you don't recall, I'll tell you right now, the red line along the top up here, I need to make that thicker in the next printing, is the 7-year Great Tribulation, okay? Exactly halfway through the 7-year Great Tribulation, exactly halfway through, so 3.5 years into it. This event happens, which we call what? You guys know this.
The Abomination.
Which means what? What is that referring to? What's that event? I'm gonna listen. If you guys think, oh, he's talking about this again, I'm gonna hammer this as much as I possibly can. I'm telling you, it might feel academic right now. It's not. It might feel that way, but I'm telling you, it's coming soon, and then it's not going to feel so academic. So you guys are gonna you're gonna be like in your sleep. It's just going to be second nature, instinct. You're going to know this story when it starts, okay, before it actually begins. So what does this depict? That's what it's called, which describes what?
Antichrist takes the throne.
The Antichrist takes what throne? Jesus' rightful throne. Where? In his high-rise apartment in downtown Manhattan, or where? In the temple. So if you go to Jerusalem now and you go to visit the temple, what are you going to find? Yeah, there's no temple there. There hasn't been for 2,000 years, just like Jesus said. You see these stones, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down, Matthew chapter 24, right? And that did happen in the year AD 70. So, but for this to happen, that means that a third Jewish temple, that was the second temple in Jesus' day, right? The first one had been destroyed almost 600 years earlier by the Babylonians. A third temple has to be built on its rightful spot. We don't get to choose where it goes. God specifies in His Word where it has to be built. It's right where the Dome of the Rock is currently standing. And oh my gosh, I mean, me just saying that, if the moderators on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube actually knew what I'm saying, what that meant, they would kill the feed right now. Why am I even saying this? Somebody check the feed. No, don't worry about it, seriously. But that's a huge statement. That's we're talking about the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. This is, listen, all the conflict in the world today, all the protests, all the the war happening in Israel right now, Iran coming in, and Hezbollah. I mean, gosh, the world's a mess at the moment, isn't it? Right? I'm telling you, it all comes down to that one little piece of real estate where the Dome of the Rock is standing. This is a fight over what's going to stand there. The Dome of the Rock, that's the oldest standing Muslim structure on earth, built in 691, AD 691, or is a third Jewish temple going to go there? And listen, I would venture to say that 99 or at least 95% of the people fighting in this war right now have no clue what I'm even talking about. It doesn't even occur to them. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a spiritual war, and that's what the war actually is. It's over this piece of real estate, right? So Revelation chapter 12. That just comes in right here. So what period of time does Revelation chapter 12 cover? And this is a quiz. It's a test. Say again? The second half. The second half of the 7-year Great Tribulation. And conversely, or in conjunction with that, Revelation chapter 11, the chapter right before that, depicts what? the first half of the Great Tribulation. So we could say that on this timeline, the entire 7-year Great Tribulation takes place from about here to about here. But I just said a minute ago that the Great Tribulation is that whole red line, okay? So this is where some of my online debates and stuff get fun, because I'm always insisting, no, the book of Revelation is in chronological order. And then people say, well, no, because of this and this. Well, it is, but it's not a simple linear chronology. It mostly is, but there's a little bit of complexity to it. Okay, so if you think of like a 20 volume set on World War II, like you have a bookshelf and there's 20 volumes. The first volume is going to start maybe it's about World War I, maybe it's about the Great Depression. It's going to be like the events and conditions leading into World War II, and then as you go through, you're going to get the Germany annexing Austria and Czechoslovakia. You're going to get the Brits getting pulled into the war. You're gonna visit the Pacific Theater. You're going to end up in North Africa, and as you go through the 20 volume set, you're going to probably bounce around a little bit because your perspective changes. By the end of the 20 volume set, what's going to be in that last volume? Probably Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? 1945, the end of the war. Maybe stuff about the UN getting established in 1946, right? But in essence, when you look at the 20 books, they're in chronological order, but it's a complex chronology because it's a very complex story. Same thing with the book of Revelation. It is 100% in perfect chronological order, but what John does as he writes this, and he's just the guy writing, it's Jesus who's giving this story to him. Jesus is sitting there dictating, John's writing it all on parchment, right? The 7-year Great Tribulation, the broader story, all the stuff that God does, the plagues that he sends, what's happening around the world, that really begins in Revelation chapter 8, okay? And that story goes all the way to the end of Revelation chapter 18, all right? The reason we get this little sub-chronology right in the middle, do you guys remember? We've talked about this before. What do Revelation chapters 11 and 12 together? Together, that's the entire 7-year Great Tribulation, but it's kind of a specific little focus that was so important that Jesus deemed it necessary. Remember, it's his prophecy, right? The prophecy of Jesus Christ, right? That God gave him, things, right? Or the revelation of Jesus Christ, it's called, right? So what is so important that Jesus felt it imperative to give it its own little mini chronology right smack dab in the middle of the broader story of the Great Tribulation? What is the focus of Revelation chapters 11 and 12? You guys remember? Yeah, very well put. Yeah, Judy, excellent. I like the way you put that. She said it's what Satan is doing. If I was to answer that before you guys said anything, I would have said the Antichrist. But what Judy just says it's way more to the point, because it's Satan. The Antichrist is just his proxy. He's here in physical form doing Satan's bidding. So it's Satan's contribution to the 7-year Great Tribulation. That's the focus. Does it make sense? Okay, so Revelation chapter 12, then, the entire chapter by itself constitutes, like Debbie said, the second half or the last half of the 7-year Great Tribulation, okay, the last 3.5 years, right? And what's happening now? What's the center of the story? What's the crisis moment of this story that last 3.5 years? It's this. It's that the Antichrist now, he's shown himself. He has finally shown his true colors. The Jews, the lights have finally gone on. He's not our long-awaited Mashiach. Yeah, he rebuilt the temple, but my gosh, it was a ruse. This guy is obviously a false Messiah. They call him Armilus, is the Jewish name for the Antichrist. And so he goes from being Mashiach to Armilus, like instantly, because on the day of dedication, halfway through the Great Tribulation, that's when the Antichrist marches into the temple, the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. He ends the daily sacrifice. That means he abolishes Judaism, okay? And the daily sacrifice can only happen where? In the temple, which means there has not been a daily sacrifice for 2,000 years. Did you know that? Because there's no temple. As soon as construction begins, they can resume the daily sacrifice, okay? And Rabbi Richmond taught me that. What's that? The day they break ground. So let's say the temple construction stuff and figure this out, and I may not be able to until it happens. I'm just not seeing clues anywhere. But let's say the temple construction starts sometime around the start of the Great Tribulation. That means it takes about 3.5 years to complete, construction, right? So for 3.5 years, the Jews are up there. The temple's under construction. It's getting built. They've got their altar up there already. There are at least 3 people in this room have actually like laid hands on that altar, right? At least the temporary one. And that's Ben, Mark, and myself, right? Temple Institute. They've got the altar made already, is my point. It already exists, huh? Yeah, I mean, the altar exists, and when the time comes, they'll move it up onto its rightful spot. I'm thinking probably right around where that little dome, the Dome of the Chain is. Remember that? The little dome next to the Dome of the Rock? Remember that? Go ahead, Greg.
How I see it, before something has to be rebuilt, it has to be destroyed first.
So the second temple was destroyed in AD 70 by the Romans, but
Standing there now, I see it falling.
yeah, exactly. That's and I know that's the point you're making. Yeah. So the Dome of the Rock, are the Muslims going to give that up easily?
No.
Are you kidding? Do you even see what's happening in the news right now?
We might see a
The whole world.
moving project. We might see a moving project that on the scale that we may have never seen before.
So it's funny. That's such a weird thing to mention, but a couple years ago, I had a young lady in Florida whose family is in the movie and television industry. They're mainly in Hollywood, but she contacted me just out of the blue, and she said, "Hey, I go to this big mega church in Florida and the pastor is very, very pre-trib. All of his guests that he has, everything." And she caught on to our ministry, right? She might be watching right now. Hi, Rachel, if she is watching. Yeah. And she said, "Is there any chance that you have a movie script? Because I'm in the industry," and she knows that like all the movies out there about the Christian version of the end times, they're all pre-trib. The church gets out here, and she would like to see the truth of this story get onto the big screen to start helping to change the mainstream view, right? So I don't have a script. I'm still trying to get part 3 written, right? I don't know how to write a movie script. So a couple of my co-hosts at the radio station, they stepped in. They tried for like probably 4 or 5 months, and they just couldn't quite get the ball rolling. And finally, I mentioned it to my twin brother, who was a writer. Okay, and he's actually an English teacher. He teaches high school in California. God help him. But I wasn't going to bug him with this, but he got all excited. So long story short, for a few months now, he and I have been kind of kicking around a movie script, and he's actually started. And it's really, really cool so far. But for him, this is so funny, Rex. You're going to trip out on this. What I found is that when I'm teaching this class, and I've been teaching this for 25 years in different forms now, right? I'm learning a ton just by standing here with the stick in my hand talking to you. Seriously, don't I do that a lot? You think I'm just like putting on, like trying to make everybody feel good or whatever? It's true. When I say, "Oh my gosh, I never thought of that," Ben, make a note, we're totally stealing that, right? That's sincere. When I'm on the radio, it's like a whole different part of my brain lights up, whatever. When I'm writing my books, oh my gosh, that's where I'm learning the most, right? But in the process of working on this crazy movie script, whatever happens with it, my twin brother started like having to come up with a story of how the Dome of the Rock happens to go away and the third temple get built. And we actually, I want to say it's mostly him. Oh, I hate it when my twin brother beats me to the punch on this stuff. This is supposed to be my thing, not his, right? But he does. He comes up with some amazing revelations, my twin. But very soon in our study, I promise I'm going to get to that and let you guys in on what the theory is about what might happen to the Dome of the Rock. It's almost the only thing that makes sense. The point being, after all that, Greg, is that, the Dome of the Rock has to go away. The big question is how. And I think my twin brother and me have actually come up with a plausible possibility. Okay, so coming soon. So anyways, so back to this. All right, so what is the story in Revelation chapter 12? So we've been working our way through it. We've already seen quite a bit. Let me take a sip here. I'm not losing my voice. Yeah, don't worry, because this is too important for me to lose my voice. So, all right. So, I got to zoom in here. Hold on. And Wanda, why don't you tell me when? Is that good? Is that good, everybody? Okay. So you'll recall that the first 6 verses. So this whole chapter is about the last half of the 7-year Great Tribulation. But the first 6 verses are all actually a little history lesson, just a reminder to give us context, and that's kind of important, right? To like understand why this is happening. Why is Satan going to do this? Why is the Antichrist going to take? So it's this neat little story in verse 1. this verse 1 actually took place about 4,000 years ago, okay? And this tells the story of Israel and how she was chosen by God, and Israel was, and how she became a nation, was birthed, and how she was chosen by God to bring the Messiah into this world, okay? And Satan was not happy about this, and he conspired for the next 2,000 years to be ready to snuff the Messiah out, like just as soon as he's born, he's gone, okay, right? So he tries out, and we all know that story. King Herod, the baby boys up to age 2 in Bethlehem, they killed them all, right? Jesus escaped, okay, because Joseph and Mary got the memo, get out of Dodge, right? And this is all told in these 6 verses. Verse 5, you remember verse 1 I said happened about 4,000 years ago. By the time we get to verse 5, it's 2,000 years later. So verse 5 happened about 2,000 years ago. Okay, and verse 5 talks about how Jesus was caught up to God and his throne. So we know that happens in Acts chapter 1. Jesus grew up, he was crucified, resurrected, and then 40 days later ascended to the Father in heaven. Verse 6, this is what's so cool, how John did this. I love this. Boy, is he a good writer. Well, Jesus, you're the good writer. John's a good note taker, right? Okay, we'll give John a little bit of credit. Verse 6 has not happened yet. Okay, verse 6 is what takes the story. We've got the context now about what's about to be prophesied, and verse 6 is what the rest of chapter 12 is actually about. So what I'm saying is that verse 1 was 4,000 years ago. By the time we get to verse 5, it's 2,000 years after that. By the time we get to verse 6, it's 2,000 years later still, which is our time. Okay, so verse 6 is what's just getting ready to happen. It says, the woman who is who? Israel fled into the wilderness. We're going to look at that, where she has a place prepared by God. That means that already God has some real estate picked out physically somewhere in the world that Israel is going to flee to. And when? Well, we know, we've talked about, this is during the last half of the Great Tribulation. So, and it says that they, who's they, we're going to get to that, should feed her there, take care of her, protect her, give her food, give her water, medicine, etc. For this period of time, which is very literal, okay, 1,260 days, which equals what? 3.5 years, and if you actually do the math, and if anyone's good enough to do it in your head, I want to talk to you after class. I want to shake your hand, okay? But that's actually, if you divide that by 3.5, you actually get 360. Oh, Kim's doing it on her phone, I think. Are you?
Prophetic days.
You actually get, yes, it's actually a concept of a prophetic year. I didn't come up with this, but I agree with it. A prophetic year equals exactly 360 days. Well, why? Well, because if God ever used the word year, which he never does in prophecy, he uses all these different ways to describe periods of time in prophecy, future events, never says the word year, because the word year is a very nebulous term. It means different things to different people, and God is extremely precise. He doesn't mean approximately. He means literally, specifically, 1,260 24-hour days. Okay, sun comes up, sun goes down. You got it? Okay. So the reason he uses this concept in prophecy of a prophetic year is so that we can actually do the math and count the days, literally, and get to precise dates. Now, I've done this in part 1 of my book series with the Daniel 70 weeks prophecy. It's freaky, like how precise it is, like precisely to the day, 173,880 days that were fulfilled with Jesus and the Mount of Transfiguration. That's when that period ended, right? It's unbelievable, like how precise it is to the day, Don. I mean, literally to the day, right? So that's why God does that. And why would he choose that number, 360? Well, so how long is a solar year? How long is a solar year? Because that's what we observe, a solar year. Okay, what about leap year? And it's 366 days. What about leap century? Did you know there's such a thing as a leap century? Every 400 years, you have to add another day to keep the calendar. What's a lunar year? Lunar year is about 30 days. Okay, approximately, but not precisely, because that can vary too. So if God was to use the word year, is there some calendar that you think that he would be biased toward? The Sumerian calendar, the Chinese calendar? What calendar? The Hebrew calendar. How long is a year on the Hebrew calendar? See, now you're going to be like, oh God, yeah, of course you had to do the prophetic year thing because it would never work. How long is a year on the Hebrew calendar? It
changes because
how much of a fluctuation? Because our calendar,
an entire month.
Yes. So a year on the Hebrew calendar can be anywhere from 353 days to 383 days. That's a 30-day difference from one year to the next. They have this thing called a 19-year cycle. I'm not going to get into all that. Anyways, but that's the purpose of a prophetic year. What's interesting, how long is a prophetic year? Do you need to know this information? Yeah, you do. I don't know why, but we're talking about it. You guys are so, you're going to be so smart with this end time stuff. You already are. How long is it? 360 days. Okay. A lunar year on average is 355 days, with like a decimal point and some numbers. A solar year on average is 365 days. It's actually like 364.3535, something like that. If you actually take the average, like you take this exact solar year, even with the decimal places, and the exact lunar year, and you add them together and then divide by 2, guess what number you come up with? What's the average of 355 and 365?
460.
See, this is why we study math in school. It's 360. It's a prophetic year. So this is like it's like the perfect balance between a lunar year and a solar year. It's just kind of interesting how God does it. Anyways, so it's not just random. It's not just arbitrary. There's actually some like science behind it. Anyways, okay. So back to this. So this is depicting the last half of the Great Tribulation. So this is in response to some event. Israel has to flee into the wilderness, and God's already got this place prepared, and someone's going to be taking care of Israel there, and they're going to be there for 3.5 years. Why? I mean, we know this. It's not a trick question. Why did they? Because the Antichrist. Okay, so he takes over the temple in Jerusalem. He turns on the Jews. Starts killing them en masse, right? And then, by the way, turns on the Christians too. We see that later in this chapter. And so they have to flee. Where do they flee? They flee Jerusalem. They flee Judea. Most of Israel they have to get out of. Maybe not all of Israel because northern Israel, something happens up there where they're protected. We're going to get in that later. But anyways, I mean, I'm guessing 1 million or more Jews. It could be 5 million. I don't know the number. We don't know the number, but there's a lot of Jews that are going to have to get out of Dodge when the Antichrist makes his move. And how can you have an evacuation that size? And where are they going to evacuate to? And what's going to happen once they get there, right? So this is all in response to what's the term called when the Antichrist makes his move? This is all in response to the abomination of desolation, okay? And this is God's promise. He's telling us so we know. This is also a promise to the Jews. Now, they don't believe it right now because they don't believe the book of Revelation or any of the New Testament is legit. But you think they might start thinking thinking twice about that when what's happening during the first half of the Great Tribulation that in chapter 11, and it's been a while since we looked at it, so I expect, I mean, somebody in here is going to get it, but what's happening during the first half when most Jews are looking at the Antichrist saying he's the Mashiach, he's our Messiah, because the one thing that characterizes the Messiah is that identifies him is that he rebuilds the temple. That's what the Antichrist is doing. That's how he tricks them and fools them. He rebuilds the temple. Okay, but what's happening that they're getting a little bird, like a little voice whispering in their ear, that whole 3.5 year period. I thought I heard somebody say it. Well, is there anybody who might get their attention, who might be saying, this is not the guy, this is not who you think he is, this is not the Messiah? Yeah, the Holy Spirit, but through who? Come on, you guys know this.
2 witnesses.
Thank you. Like I was that close to saying it, and then I was just gonna you guys are all gonna get like C's for tonight. No, not really. Right? Yes, the 2 witnesses, right? And do you guys remember? It's been a while since we talked about them, but who the 2 witnesses almost certainly are? Okay. Yes, and you remember a moment ago I was talking about the 70 weeks prophecy, and I mentioned briefly the Mount of Transfiguration event. Remember that was Jesus on the top of the Mount of Transfiguration, and that was Moses and Elijah. It literally names them by name, came down from heaven. And Elijah, we know right now, has a physical body, so God's not going to have to put them all back together for him to come back to earth. He can literally come back to earth as is, because he's in heaven right now in a physical body, right? We know that. Now Moses, that gets a little bit trickier, but there is substantial evidence, I'm not going to take the time, that Moses too right now is in his physical body up in heaven. Now he died, but the Bible says, and the Jews to this day say, we have no idea where he's buried. How could you not know where your number one guy in the entire story isn't buried? But then Jude gives us a hint, because the book of Jude, Jesus' half-brother, right, says that Michael the archangel contended with Satan for the body of Moses. Why are they fighting over Moses' body? Who cares? Let the guy go on the ground and turn to dust. Who cares, right? There's an ancient book that's not in the Bible. Okay, there's my disclaimer. But a lot of scholars and a lot of Jews think that it's a legitimate book, and it's called The Assumption of Moses. And the word assumption literally means to physically, in a physical body, be caught up into heaven. That's what the word means. So there's this theory that Elijah was a type and shadow of the rapture. He never died. He was taken up physically. And Moses, in turn, maybe is a type and shadow of the resurrection. He did die, but then was resurrected from the dead and then ascended into heaven. I don't know that for sure. I do know for sure that Moses and Elijah, again, they're the guys on the Mount of Transfiguration because they're name by name. And the descriptions of the two witnesses look a lot like them. So here's the point. Who are the two guys in the entire Old Testament who the Jews today would be most likely to listen to? It would be Moses and it would be Elijah. Okay, zero question. And you could say, well, yeah, Pastor Ryan, I get what he's saying about Moses, because he was the one who received the law from God. He's the one that led them out of Egypt. But Elijah, why is he saying that? Couldn't it be like Solomon or David or something? Do you know that to this day, has anybody here ever been to? You got any Jewish friends? If you don't, you need some. We have some coming in November. My two best friends from Israel are going to be here. They're going to teach here at the church. I'm going to have them at the Ark over at. But anyways, has anyone here ever been to a Passover Seder, a real one, not the one that the Christians put on, as nice as that is, but like actual rabbi, synagogue? They're not Christian. So it's funny. I've been to quite a few of them. I took Skylar to a couple here in town. So you're sitting at the table and they've got all these cuts. I mean, it goes on for hours and hours, but it's really fun. It's actually a good time. But they're reading out they're reading the story. They're reading all this other stuff, and you got all this food and all these desserts. Don't eat for 3 days before the Seder because you won't have room for, right. But at an actual Jewish Passover Seder, you'll notice that there's always one chair that's empty. And there's a plate there, and there's a special cup, and it's a nice looking cup. Like, how come my cup doesn't look that nice, right? And that cup is actually, does anyone want to guess who that's for? It's Elijah. It's Elijah's cup. And what the tradition is in Judaism is that just before Mashiach, just before the Messiah comes into the world for the first time, because they don't believe he's come yet, right? We know he has. But just before the Messiah comes, he will be the one who comes to prepare the way, okay? You know that Jesus even said that? Who prepared the way for Jesus' first coming? John the Baptist. Do you know what Jesus called him? He said he is Elijah if you'll receive it. Jesus said that. Look it up. Okay, he actually said John the Baptist is Elijah, not symbolizes, but like is, if you'll receive it, right? So, and I think he did mean it like more in like a spiritual or archetypal sense, but compelling, right? That Jesus says that. So anyway, so to this day, that's who the Jews are expecting to come and herald the arrival of the Messiah. So if this guy shows up in Jerusalem, who is actually Elijah, the real Elijah, and he's got the real Moses with him, again, these are the two guys who they're going to listen to about the Messiah. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, well, they're not going to believe that they're Moses and Elijah. No, of course they're not, right? I'm not crazy, right? But nonetheless, they're going to be there, and they're going to be clothed in sackcloth, Revelation chapter 11 says, and they're going to, and what's the witnessing? They're going to be witnessing against the guy who all the Jews are saying, this is our Messiah, this is our Messiah. They're going to be saying he's not, and they're going to be telling them the true Mashiach is the guy that you guys crucified 2,000 years ago. It was Yeshua. Yeshua is the true Messiah. And the Jews are starting to warm up to that idea. I mean, it's amazing to watch in our generation, but there's some like really horrible things written about Jesus in the Talmud, and it's true, it's in there, whatever. But today, my most Orthodox friends are starting to acknowledge Yeshua, Jesus. He was a good Jewish boy. He was a Jewish rabbi. They're still not acknowledging that he's the Messiah, but the Holy Spirit's working on them. They're already warming up. Now, the two witnesses, it says that they can call down fire from heaven, that they can just speak a word and it kills their enemies, that the Antichrist tries to kill them but can't, not until the very end of Revelation chapter 11. So is that going to get their attention? Okay, these guys are claiming to be Moses and Elijah, and what's the evidence? When Jesus was here, I mean, what's one of the things that got people's attention? He was doing real miracles. These two will be doing real miracles. They won't believe it. They're going to be dead, but that's going to be a little question in the back of their mind. So by the time the Antichrist makes his move, the Jews are going to be ready to see it. The lights are just going to go on just like that, right? And then maybe they'll look at Revelation chapter 12 and say, okay, now we're in the story. We got it right. In the meantime, here's what we've looked at, that in response to the abomination of desolation, Michael and his angels go to war with Satan and his angels, and Michael finally kicks Satan out of heaven once and for all, meaning he is allowed to be in heaven now, standing before God. It says it right here, accusing the brethren night and day. All right, we've talked about that before. I know it's a huge thing to say, but I've already done it in this class, so let's not go overboard, right? And woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows he has a short time. So here's where the story picks up. Right now, when Satan, the dragon, right, saw that he'd been cast to earth, he persecuted the woman Israel, who gave birth to the male child Jesus. But the woman Israel was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time. And how long is a time, times, and half a time? 3.5 years, and we know that because we just saw it up here, right? 1,260 days. So there's no mystery about that. From the presence of the serpent. Okay, so let's get over to. Actually, let me go back to my slide here. Oop.
Yeah, because before you were saying they were independent, I think they come to the U.S.
Yeah, okay, so I love that point. So, you guys don't be afraid to do this. Wait, who said that? Okay, you get an F for the class for disagreeing with me, but still, thank you. But it's appreciated, okay? No, I like this, right? Challenge me on this stuff. I mean, if you're thinking something, you don't.
You said the eagle.
Yeah,
Eagle, and you feed them for a time at a time. Yeah.
Right, and we've been building this case, right? That the eagle is symbolic of the United States of America. So we've looked at the statue. We know that this dream that King Nebuchadnezzar has in Daniel chapter 2, that it's describing global hegemony throughout the ages, from the time of Nebuchadnezzar all the way to the very end, when God sends the cosmic impact event that will bring all of the world system down, destroy it, right? But that means that there's a last days hegemon, which is the feet of what? What's it made of? Iron and clay. And we know, and every scholar agrees with this, as far as I have been able to see over all these decades, that the legs of iron symbolize the ancient Roman Empire. So if the feet are iron and clay, that means they must be some latter days permutation of the Roman Empire, right? Okay, and I'm going to answer your question. Yeah, did you hear what Greg said? Isn't that a good point? I mean, one thing I'd bring up right away is that would be a very expensive airlift to get all the Jews out of Jerusalem. And of course, this going to happen have to happen like overnight. Okay, because no one's going to be expecting, except us, right? And believers, I mean, that know the story. The Antichrist is going to take over the temple and immediately turn on the Jews and start killing them. So whatever happens has to happen immediately. How are you going to get 1 million or 3 million or 4 million Jews out of Israel and to the United States? Just like right then. Do you know how many ships that would take, et cetera, et cetera? It's a good point. And I have said Petra before, which I always thought was goofy when I was years ago before I actually studied it. Once I started to study it, then it kind of jumped out at me. So we're going to look at all that, okay? I promise. So we're looking at this concept of the feet of iron and clay being us, the United States of America, which means that we are the final permutation of the Roman Empire, okay, that officially became defunct just a couple hundred years after the time of Christ. Okay, it shifted from Rome to Byzantium, which was renamed Constantinople. Right today, that's Istanbul. But anyway, so it's been a good 1,700 years or more since Rome in this form ceased to exist. But again, it's this idea that there's a resurrected form of the Roman Empire, right? So with this as our focus, wings of an eagle. What would that symbolize in prophecy? So Jesus can't just come out and say, "Hey, John, write this down. United States of America. Here, I'll spell it UNIT." Right? That's not going to happen. So if the United States is going to be depicted in end times prophecy, it can't be by its modern name. Okay, I mean, Iran is depicted in end times prophecy. You believe me? But the name Iran didn't exist then. So what's it called in the Bible? Persia. Russia is depicted in end times prophecy. The name Russia didn't exist when the Bible was written. So how's that referred to? Magog, right? Gog of Magog, right? Tubal, that's modern day Turkey, right? I mean, there's all kinds of examples of this. All right. So how might the United States, if it's depicted in end times prophecy, be symbolized? I like this concept of the wings of an eagle, and it gives this feeling. She's given wings of an eagle that she might fly into the wilderness, flee right in the wilderness, and it kind of gives this like imagery of like a massive airlift or something. And I don't think they're all going to get out of there by plane or by helicopter, but that will be a component anyways. But it's good. It's good symbolism. It's good imagery if that's the United States. Okay. So here's the thing. You tracking with me? All right. Let's get back to our articles, and let's play this out. Where am I? Right. Hold on, everybody. I got to get to the right spot. There we go. Right there. Okay, good. All right. So last class we looked at this article, why the founding fathers loved ancient Rome. I want to point out too, these are relatively new articles. This one just goes back to 2018, and they're all on very legit sites. And I think I made this comment last class. Go into any poli-sci department anywhere in America, anywhere in the world, if they talk about America, and they all do because we're the hegemon, right? We are Rome. They do talk about us. And this isn't even debatable. Like, this is not like, a few people's opinion that the United States is the modern day permutation of the ancient Roman Empire. The most secular, atheistic, liberal arts professor at any university in the poli-sci department, they're going to say this. Everybody goes along with this. Yeah. United States, we're Rome, right? So this isn't like cutting edge, fringe idea. This is another very legit site with scholarly articles about America, the founding fathers, and the inspiration of Rome. And let's take a look at this. How the Roman Empire provided the founding fathers a blueprint for America's economy. So that's like another element here. And I always got to bring out one of my favorite books in the world because it's so big and it impresses you guys that I actually read this in college. Like, can you believe that? Wrote papers on it. An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Who here remembers me talking about this book before? So this is literally the Bible of capitalism. Okay, ask any economist anywhere in the world. They will agree with this point. It's just not my point. This is what I was taught. They all say it, right? So capitalism did not exist before this book was written. And all the ideas in this book became the foundation for what we know as capitalism today, which is the economic system that drives the entire world system. Yes? Okay. Yeah. I mean, they try to do socialism. Well, socialism doesn't work. What works? This. Is it perfect? Is it great? No, of course not. It's the world system. It's not going to be great. Okay. But it works. Anybody remember who Adam Smith was? Scottish economist. Okay, somebody's going to get this. What year did he publish this book? And he did it in this year on purpose. What year? It's the same year that the First Horsemen set out in response to this and one other really big thing happening. Nobody? Oh, good. See, this is why I don't mind, like I know I taught them about this already, but you guys don't remember, so cool. We'll talk about it again. 1776. Isn't that wild? Okay. And if you look closely at his picture, you would have guessed that because he kind of looks like George Washington or Thomas Jefferson on there, right? He's got the wig and everything, right? But why would an economist in Scotland publish this amazing book? His revolutionary ideas for the economic system that would drive the modern world, the last vision. I mean, the last permutation of the world system before Jesus comes back. We know it, right? So why would he purposely publish that book in the year 1776? He's in Scotland. Huh? To sway who?
The founders.
So kind of, you're along the right lines. You're touching the right area. So Adam Smith, he's in Scotland. He sees what those crazy Americans are doing across the pond. Okay, they're rebels. They're rebelling against the empire. He's guessing that they're going to win. And 1776, it was clear by then. Apparently, I wasn't alive, and I don't know what the word on the street was, but apparently it was apparent to him at the time. They're going to win the American Revolution, and that's when I'm going to release this concept, because he looked at America, okay, across the Atlantic, and said that is going to be a perfect laboratory for my new economic system. That's where it's going to begin, and that's where this article comes in. This is so fascinating. So I probably have to zoom in. Hold on. How the Roman Empire provided the founding fathers a blueprint for America's economy. So I'm pointing at Adam Smith, Scottish economist, whoever wrote this article, Lear. I'm sorry, that's not a person's name. Is saying the Roman Empire provided the founding fathers. Both things are 100% true. This is so interesting. I've got the parts highlighted that I want to share. Roman imperial advancements in free trade, property rights, and urbanization offered the founding fathers a vision for what America could be and a blueprint for the American dream. So even this, so the elements, the principles that drove the economy of the ancient Roman Empire, they disappeared from history by this time. What was the main global economy, very generally speaking, before the American Revolution? Anybody know? Why am I doing this to you guys? This is like my poli-sci degree, huh? But what was the system of economy called? Do you guys remember from high school? Feudalism. Okay. Yeah, so it's property owners, landlords, kings, whatever you want to call them, and the whole world was doing this. All the big economies around the whole world. China was doing it. Japan was doing it, all through Europe, right? There was the landed classes. They owned all the land, and they would let the serfs, the peasants, whatever, rent parcels of the land, and they would grow food on it or animals, whatever, and then they would pay big taxes to the landowners. I mean, this went on for centuries and centuries and centuries, but no longer. Okay, go ahead, Rex.
Benjamin Franklin was in England for more than 20 years prior to 1776. There's a good possibility he connected with this guy in Scotland.
There may even be a history of that. I don't know, but I would say it's impossible that they didn't. I mean, great point, Rex. I love that. Because all the great thinkers of that time, they all found each other. And this guy's book made it back to the United States. I mean, it could have been Ben Franklin who brought it on a ship. I don't know. But yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, the founding fathers, they latched on to this concept, Adam Smith, his idea, and then they mixed it and married it with what they knew about the Roman Empire. Their whole idea was that the United States would be a modern day permutation, the final permutation of the Roman Empire. I said in the last class, we weren't the only ones to ever have this idea. We were the first ones in 2,000 years to have this idea. But Hitler, that was his dream, the Third Reich. That's what that was. It was the third and final permutation of the Roman Empire. Well, that may have been Hitler's goal, but that wasn't God's plan. We're Rome. Okay? I mean, Hitler really wanted that, and he failed. That's why he linked up with Mussolini in Rome, and it was a joke. There's a story about Hitler going down to visit Mussolini in Rome and going through the streets of Rome and these amazing like ancient Roman architecture facades and all the buildings, right? Well, it turns out that they were just that. They were facades. In advance of Hitler's visit, Mussolini had his workers construct all these fake facades to make it look like, look, see, we're Rome, we're building up, the whole thing was just like a put on, right? But we're it, okay? Rome does exist today, just like Nebuchadnezzar's dream said it would. Daniel chapter 2, that's end times prophecy, is going to come true. And so today, if we're in the end times, there has to be a modern permutation of the Roman Empire. You're sitting in it. You guys are Roman citizens. Did you know that? Okay. Don't be so ashamed, because the Apostle Paul was a Roman citizen, and he wasn't ashamed of it. He invoked it. You guys can't do this to me. I have rights. I'm a Roman citizen. So, enjoy your rights as a Roman citizen. You can feel guilty if you want. I don't know. We were born here for a reason. So, all right. So what do I want to read here? Ancient Rome's many social and economic achievements gave the founding fathers the confidence to set out a plan for building their new country in the Declaration of Independence. As set out in my book, this is George, here's the guy that wrote it, George Marr. As set out in my book, Pugner, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, Economic Success and Failure, How the Empire Informed the Start of America, is easy to see. Okay, as many of the founding fathers received a classical education in Latin and Cicero, they would be well versed in how the structure of the Roman economy and society allowed it to spread its borders and increase trade. And I think that's all I have highlighted here. I don't want to take too much time on these articles, but and you can find these online, right? But apparently this guy has a whole book. I should get that book. I think I'm going to buy that book. Ben, go on Amazon right now and buy that book, please. I'll pay you back, I promise. No, Ben, I'm joking. Ben's actually, sorry, man. You know why he moves so fast? Because he knows my addiction lately to buying books. He's had to reel me in on my current research. So this is different, right? This would be like pleasure reading. So, right. For real though, I'm going to go and track down this book. It just occurred to me I need this book. So, anyways, all right. So the political system, we're a republic. The Roman Empire's economy. Mix in Adam Smith stuff with capitalism, which, by the way, I guess I should mention this briefly because it's so pertinent. I don't remember if I said it or not a minute ago, but 1776, Adam Smith publishes his book, The United States of America is Established, the Final Days Permutation of the Roman Empire, okay? And that's literally the year that the First Horsemen sets out. Is that pertinent? Is it coincidental? Much more likely, I'm just playing games in my head. But when we get to that point in our study, which is coming soon, don't worry, you guys will see it. The First Horsemen actually set out in 1776, and it sounds corny. I'm the last guy in the world. Oh my gosh, I'm not that guy. Like the goofy end times ideas, and So, but I'm telling you, go ahead, Greg. But you'll see, and it makes sense. Go ahead, Greg.
Never mind, it left.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though.
Were you going to disagree with me again? So that's probably the Holy Spirit stopping you. So, no, and
When the horses were released, all four went off at once.
They don't. It's an interesting idea. Even the way that they're depicted in Revelation, it's one after the other. The first one sets out, and then the second one, and then the third one. So each thing, like I said earlier in the class, Revelation is very much in chronological order. So all these things happen in succession. So the first horseman, which is also the first seal, remember the scroll with 7 seals, only Jesus is worthy to open. So the 4 horsemen are actually the first 4 seals of the 7 seals on the scroll. Each one is opened in turn. One, let me up the ante. One actually naturally leads to the next. And you guys will see this so clearly when we get to it in our teaching. It's a unique teaching, but it's something that we could only understand in our generation because it really would have had to have happened already for us to even understand it or comprehend it. 100 years ago, would have never seen it. You would never see the 4 horsemen coming. Now, when I explain to you what they appear to be, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's it, 100%. The United Nations agrees with me. Okay, I'll explain that when the time comes. Remember the tour we took? I made Pam and Skylar back in October. They loved it. Don't listen when they say they didn't love it. They're just making up stories. Don't believe it. But yeah, our tour guide even like he's talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like 1,000% describing the 4 horsemen. But yeah, you're getting me like months ahead of my teaching, Greg. So hey, be like Greg. Disagree with me, challenge me. I love it, man. Come on. So I'm not too much like Greg, but just with it. I mean, there can only be one Greg. So all right, I love you, man. Okay, so what about architecture? Okay, so we all know. So again, we're thinking in terms of did the founding fathers actually intend this? Now, another point I want to make just because they intended it doesn't mean that, okay, then America is, modern day Rome, just because they intended it. Like I said a minute ago, I mean, Hitler intended it, and he, of course, completely failed, right? But remember that if we are modern day Rome, we should expect to see all this. We should expect to see all the founding fathers writing about the Roman Empire. We need to emulate that. Cicero is our greatest, inspiration, right? The Roman economy, we're going to base our economy on their principles, mixing this guy's stuff. And then you're going to see it show up in architecture, okay? Especially back then. Governments still try to do that to this day, but budgets are different nowadays. But they try to emulate, or they try to project whatever their ideals are through architecture in like their capitals, things like that. This is normal stuff. I mean, so my first trip overseas, I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, just going everywhere. I need more coffee, more espresso, right? But my first trip overseas was 1987. I was 19 years old. I was younger than Ben is now. And I went to the Soviet Union for a month by myself. But I remember that about the Soviet Union, that, I mean, you go into Moscow, you go into Leningrad, which was still Leningrad back then. You even go into Kiev. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, right? Even across Siberia, the big cities there, Novosibirsk, Irkutsk. And I mean, Soviet architecture was unmistakable. They had this feel to it, this theme, this style to it that was so projecting of their ideals of what we know as a tyrannical state. State control. The state owns the property, the means of production. The people are just workers, right? It's all propaganda. Okay, so again, back to my point I'm trying to make here. If we really are the modern day permutation of the ancient Roman Empire, like King Nebuchadnezzar's dream depicts, right? Then this is another area where we would expect to see it manifest, and that's in architecture. I don't even need to go any further because you guys see where I'm going with this, but let's cross the T's and dot the I's. Go ahead, John.
I don't show exactly the country, but one of the African countries, I think it's Liberia, was set up to be a mirror image of the United States. They even have a White House for their...
What was?
Liberia. And,
Liberia. I thought you said Siberia. I was like...
Liberia.
Yeah.
They set up to be exactly like the United States. It looked like it.
Yeah, I remember that. They try to emulate it. Yeah, exactly.
And,
yeah.
But there was something, they wanted all the African Americans to go back there.
Yeah. Well, if you've ever, I know, that's true. If you've ever been on a cruise ship, you've actually been on a Liberian ship. So they're all registered in Liberia for some reason. So anyways, okay, back on track here. So what are some of the elements of the classical Roman architecture? You've got like the triangle shape here. You've got rectangular shaped buildings. You've got columns. You've got arches. You have big public squares. You have domes, right? Yes. So, I mean, this is all like standard Roman architecture. I could put this up and not say the term Roman architecture, and you guys all know that's what we're looking at, right? You see the style, and this is what students of architecture understand, or even just us. Roman architecture, and this is from AI, by the way, so you know it's correct. Okay. Roman architecture has many elements, including domes. Okay. Recurring structure in temples, such as the Temple of Venus in Rome. Arches, right? Very common in architecture, bridges, etc. Concrete is a main material. White marble is preferable, but they use a lot of concrete, even in ancient Rome, to build, right? Public squares, again, rectangular buildings, and I mentioned a couple others that aren't listed here, like the columns, what else did I say? Columns, domes, I guess domes is mentioned here. Modern day Washington, D.C., what do you guys see? These are all buildings standing today in our national capital, Washington, D.C. What do you see? You see all the elements of Roman architecture. I know this isn't like, wow, I didn't know that. But yeah, you tracking with me? You got the columns, you got the triangular shape, you got the rectangular buildings. You've got the domes, you've got the white marble and concrete for the building materials. You've got the big public squares, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes? Okay. So was that the founders' intent when they built Washington, D.C., was to emulate the ancient Roman Empire? I mean, obviously. Is that even a question? Go ahead, Greg.
We also have the gladiator stadiums that we call football arenas.
Oh, wow. That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg, that comment is allowed because I'm not into football. So you guys can love me anyways. I'm sorry. That's why you never get like football references in my class. I'm just kind of not into it. But no, it really is true though. Yeah, go ahead, Rex.
The design of New York City was based on a wheel, the same as Rome was.
Yes, in fact, very good. How'd you know that, Rex? Well, why should I say that? Rex is brilliant. Yeah. Say that again. Say it louder. Say that again.
That the design of New York City was based on a wheel, like Rome was.
Yeah, and why would it be New York City and not Washington, D.C.? Because we're talking about the United States Capitol right now. You're right. You're onto something. Do you guys know that actually Washington, D.C. was not the original capital of the United States of America? I think this came up in the last class 2 weeks ago. It was actually New York City. And does anyone know or want to guess why the founders decided pretty early on to move it away from New York City to this? Say again? I didn't hear the joke. Come on.
I think it got too political there.
Yeah, and even more to the point, hold on, go live again. TikTok keeps timing out on me, I always forget. Go live. That's okay, they'll come back. Yeah, even more than that, New York City, by the time that the United States was established, Declaration of Independence and then the U.S. Constitution, which was 1787, right? New York City was already so powerful and so rich. They said these guys are already too strong, so we need to move the political center of the country away from the financial and cultural center of the country. But spiritually, though, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the spirit of hegemony stayed on New York City and is still on it to this day, and they're closely connected. Washington and New York, they're pretty close to each other and everything, right? But yeah, that's exactly right. That's what's going on here, okay? But so really. If the United States is the Roman Empire, which it is, then what constitutes Rome? And remember, I've said this before, the spirit of hegemony always rests not on a country, but on a single city. So with the Babylonians, it was Babylon. With the Medo-Persians, it was Shushan, right? Alexander the Great, Athens, and then you had Rome, you had Constantinople, right? And even like the British Empire, London, right? But the spiritual center, the spirit of hegemony, the city that it rests on today is not Washington, D.C. It's actually New York City, technically, okay? Just keep that in mind. That might come up in our teaching in a second here, come to think of it. But okay, so you tracking with me? Everybody good? Yep. It doesn't seem strange to anybody. I mean, this isn't supposed to be like an aha moment. This is obvious stuff. We all know this. Okay, now, one more article. This is a good one. Why is Washington, D.C. so Roman? Good question. Here's a nice picture of that's the Capitol building, right? Washington, D.C. is separated from ancient Rome. I'm going to zoom in. Hold on. This was just published a few years ago, 2021. Okay. Washington, D.C. is separated from ancient Rome by an ocean, thousands of miles, and about 1,600 years. But Rome dominates Washington. So they're going back to the Byzantium Empire. Makes sense. But Rome dominates Washington's architectural character more than that of almost any major city. I would disagree with one word in that sentence, the word almost. It's more than any other city in the world, okay? A tour of Washington's most prominent landmarks makes it clear that the American city was the product of a deliberate, concerted effort to emulate the capital of the Roman Empire. Why would a new nation that had just thrown off the British Empire to establish a republic model its capital on a long-gone European empire? And just to remind you, the question that we're looking at here is, who are the wings of an eagle in Revelation? Who is it that rescues the Jews? Okay, just because there's somebody who has that role. This is what we're working on. The answer to this question is one of the most fascinating tales in American history. It is also, check this out, it is also contemporary. I didn't know this. Contemporary because of a controversial executive order signed by former President Donald Trump. Isn't that a trip? To require perpetuation of the classic style in future federal buildings in Washington and federal courthouses nationwide. So isn't that wild? So President Trump actually presented legislation. I have to research, like, did it actually, pass and take hold? It probably did. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Yeah, but it was Trump who said, look, we need to make this a law that any new federal buildings have to be in the Roman style. That's wild. Okay. And maybe in November he'll be the Roman emperor again, or whatever, right? Hey. And remember, it's feet of iron and clay. It's half righteous and half unrighteous. So again, don't be ashamed of your Roman citizenship. We need to invoke it like Paul does. Okay, it's a incredible privilege and et cetera, to be citizens of the modern day Roman Empire. But we're first and foremost citizens of God's kingdom, right? Okay, we're the body of Christ. So, but just like Paul, don't shy away from it. Not a bad thing. There's a bad aspect, but there's a good aspect. Americans became obsessed with neoclassicism, as Rome at the time was the only example of a major republic in Western history. That means that until the United States came along, there had not been a really pure example of the Roman Empire for 2,000 years. Okay, that's amazing, almost 2,000 years. As they debated the form that their new republic, that's why you just see the legs of iron followed by the feet of iron and clay. Okay, there's that gap historically. As they debated the form that their new republic would take, the founding fathers, they shared Roman texts and ideas, and their letters are just full of this stuff. Okay, Thomas Jefferson included Roman ideas of government in the Declaration of Independence. It was a government that drew on ancient models to reform politics, protect individuals, and constrain tyranny. Americans positioned themselves in the tradition of ancient Greeks and Romans. Remember, the Greeks were the hegemon before the Romans became hegemon, right? And they're actually in the statue too, Nebuchadnezzar's statue, who had debated and developed principles of justice, rule of law, liberty, limited government, and due process. Jefferson, an architect, greatly admired both Roman Republican values and architecture, which to him epitomized the simplicity, grandeur, balance, and social ideals of the new nation. So it was very intentional. What we see today, what Trump is trying to solidify in law, maybe it's already been done, very intentional. Jefferson modeled his designs for the Virginia State Capitol building on the Maison Curie, and yes, I had to look up how to pronounce that, a first century BC Roman temple in France, and built his house Monticello in neoclassical style. Jefferson became a key figure in linking new American ideals of government with ancient Roman visual concepts. Very intentional. We are the last days Roman Empire. The founding fathers detested the British monarchy, but they were far from turning their backs on the past. Instead, they believed that there were universal truths that could be discovered in the collective wisdom of antiquity and shaped for their own political goals. These ideas could lend cultural stability to the fledgling government. Let me keep going. Again, just the highlighted parts. Washington, D.C. has more public buildings with classic Greek Roman style pediments than just about any major city. I would disagree with that. It's any major city, okay, more than any. The Irish poet Thomas More called the city modern Rome. Isn't that crazy? He actually looked at it and called it modern Rome. Has anybody else ever referred to America as the Roman Empire? You guys are going to be mad at me for this?
That's John.
John Lennon, yes, the Beatles. This is cool, though, this saying. This is the only time I'll ever quote one of the Beatles in my class, I promise, okay? But John Lennon famously said once, he said, if I'd lived in Roman times, I'd have lived in Rome. Where else? Today, America is the Roman Empire, and look what he says, and New York is Rome itself. So he was actually closer than that Irish poet guy. It's actually New York City. Interesting, huh? I mean, they had a couple of good songs. Come on. All right. Yeah. Anyways, forgive me. Okay. So, nice Roman. Oh, so this kind of gets to Rex's point about New York City, but same thing with Washington, D.C., Rex. They did the same thing. They looked at Rome and then modeled the layout of the city after the ancient city of Rome. Interesting, right? Very intentional. There's a couple more things I want to show you here. U.S. Capitol, very Roman, obviously. And these are the main buildings, right? This isn't just a museum or something. The White House, you got the columns, you got the portico, you got the rectangular shape. Jefferson Memorial, there's your dome, there's your columns, there's your concrete material, right? This is interesting though. Where'd this come from? This is like out of left field. The Washington Monument. What's that? What style is that? Is that Roman? That's Egyptian, yeah. So I kind of like this, and it seems out of place in this article. and it's very much in place in the context of what we're talking about here, because Egypt, of course, that was one of the earliest examples of global hegemony. Okay, so that was before the Babylonian Empire. But the Egyptians, when they were building their pyramids and the Jews were in captivity there, they were the global hegemon. It's a spirit of hegemony, starting with the Tower of Babel, Genesis chapter 11. And there's always a global hegemon. This is the head of the world system, whose god is Satan. The Apostle Paul says that, right? There's always only one global hegemon at any given time. I don't care who's competing for it. And it's a spirit, and it's God who decides who's the hegemon, okay? And the hegemon is very much antithetical to God, but God also uses the hegemon to carry out his purposes, okay? There's multiple examples of this throughout history, including the United States, okay? Who is it that established the modern day nation of Israel? It's the United States. Who is it that protects Israel to this day? And even like if we're onto something with this wings of an eagle thing in Revelation chapter 12, we are the ones who will keep on protecting the Jews and the nation of Israel, coming to its defense to the very, very end. Okay. But yeah, so Washington, D.C., just out of nowhere, we get this little nod to Egypt, and it even talks about it here. The Washington Monument is a simple tapered stone obelisk with a pyramid top inspired by ancient Egyptian architecture. So got to get that little nod in there. I got to get to Washington, D.C. I can't believe I've never been there. I bet I'm going to find little pieces of like Babylon and Medo-Persia, I bet you. Need to go there and look. Lincoln Memorial, everybody bear with me. I know, but we'll get there. There's the guy. Okay, kind of Roman looking. Kind of, yeah. I don't know, the throne. You want to see this? You ready to laugh? Don't laugh. Show some respect. Look at this. There are statues of George Washington dressed as a Roman emperor. Wait, I got to zoom out. Isn't that funny? Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, literally, like that's George Washington dressed as a Roman emperor. I mean, come on. And this is probably like in the National Museum in Washington, D.C. or something. I don't know. Put a shirt on, dude. I don't know. Let's see. I got to zoom back in. Hold on. Almost done with this article. Okay, now here's where we're going with this. What's the symbolism in Revelation? The eagle, wings of an eagle. How would God symbolize the United States if he wanted? How would Jesus symbolize the United States if he wanted to refer to it in end times prophecy? The bald eagle is the national animal and a prominent political symbol of freedom. The Romans used the eagle as a symbol of strength and of their supreme god, Zeus, which, by the way, is very much a stand-in for Satan. And in my current research, I've connected the dots so clearly. I mean, it's Baal, who Jesus references when he says Beelzebub. You remember Jesus is talking about Satan, calls him Beelzebub. That's Baal-zebub, which is Baal, which is the Canaanite god up in modern day Lebanon, the Bekaa Valley. I've been there, Baalbek, and that's tied directly to Zeus. Okay. Isn't that weird? What did Paul say? Who's the god of this world system? It's Satan. It's this guy, okay? But that's how the Romans use it as a symbol of strength, and their supreme god, Zeus, Satan. And there it is. There's the eagle. Funny that it shows up in this article. I love this article. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France in 1886, is Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty, right? Now, here's back to Trump, and we're almost at the end of the article here, so everybody hang tight. Trump's executive order, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can read it. Where'd you go? Trump's executive order established a President's Council on improving federal civic architecture intended to ensure that proposed federal buildings were beautiful and reflective of the dignity, enterprise, vigor, and stability of the American system of self-government. The order cited ancient Greece and Rome and language from the Constitution of the Italian city of Siena in 1309, saying that Washington and Jefferson modeled the most important buildings in Washington on the classical architecture of ancient Athens and Rome to remind citizens of their rights and responsibilities in maintaining and perpetuating the Republic's institutions. So that's Trump agreeing with us here. Cool. Okay. So let's see, we already looked at him. Won't do that again. Okay, so hold on. Everybody good? We got 10 minutes left. Hang in there. I'm just starting to have fun, but I won't keep you around. Okay. So there's the eagle. So you guys, So you guys are all familiar with this symbolism, right? This concept of Rome, and we see movies, we see ancient depictions, we see illustrations like this. And what is the symbol of the Roman Empire? It's the eagle, and that is the symbol of the United States. Now, this is so interesting, you guys. This kind of blow your minds a little bit, I think. So, after the last class 2 weeks ago, John Dahl, it was you, right? Came up to me and said, "Hey, did you know that that the bald eagle has never officially been the symbol of America?" Which kind of hurts our theory a little bit. Not bad. I'm gonna, I'll stick to my guns, right? But then he said that something has happened recently. What'd you tell me, John?
They noticed that was not there, so they proposed a bill that would make it so, and it was unanimously passed.
So here's an article about what John just said. This blows my mind. This is such a funny coincidence. So we're just now talking about this in our class, and this just happened. I had no idea. So look at this. This article was published about 2 or 3 days before our last class 2 weeks ago. This just happened. This makes it official. Senate finally names the bald eagle the official national bird 242 years after it became a symbol of America. So, gosh, now according to the law in the United States of America, it still has to go through a couple processes. Now, according to the law of the United States, I always thought it was like official. It never has been. But just in the last couple weeks, we're talking about this. Now the eagle officially symbolizes the United States of America. Revelation chapter 12, wings of an eagle. It's interesting. I mean, come on. I don't want to make too big of a deal about it, but I mean, I do, but you guys aren't going to. Okay, hold on. All right, so let's read a little bit from this article. Everybody good? I know, I'm sorry, I should not have included that. It's such a bad joke, but you guys know me with my bad jokes. Better late than feather. I mean, who writes this stuff? Come on. I don't think I have any bad puns like that in my books. I might. The Senate has passed a bill, this is just a couple weeks ago, has passed a bill officially designating the bald eagle as America's national bird, a long overdue recognition after more than 200 years of symbolizing the country. The bill is sponsored by Minnesota Democrat Amy Klobuchar, and I know she's a Democrat, Trump's a Republican, we're on the same page. This is gonna, and it wasn't just, huh? It doesn't matter. God uses who he uses, right? Yeah, exactly. Feet of iron and clay. Thank you. And it was a Democrat who proposed the bill, but it passed unanimously. So this is not a partisan issue. It was unanimous. The Republicans said, yeah, 100%, every single one of them, okay? Every Democrat, every Republican. In the Senate, this isn't even the House. This is the Senate. This is legit, right? It's a big deal. Clearing the way for the Rapture to take its rightful place as a formal symbol of national pride. That's cool. So it's official now. For more than 240 years, the bald eagle has been synonymous with with American values, yet it is still not officially our national bird. Senator Cynthia Loomis, who is a Republican from Wyoming, right? So we're all happy now? Yes. One of the bill's co-sponsors said in a press release after the bill passed, "Today's bipartisan passage brings us one step closer to solidifying the eagle's place as an enduring symbol of our freedom, and I look forward to seeing this legislation pass the House and signed into law soon." You guys remember Schoolhouse Rock? Yeah. I am a bill or something like that, or saying how bills are made. We're all like dating ourselves. Like I say this to Ben's age group, they're like, "What?" So yeah, Schoolhouse Rock, you remember? So I thought that all bills had to go through the House first and then the Senate and then they go to the president's desk, and this one's going the other way around, whatever. I know I'm a poli-sci major, but I focused on international relations, just to let you know. Okay. But is the House gonna not pass this bill? They'll pass it, of course. It's nice. Is the president, whoever is in office, okay, we know what we're praying for, right? Believing for. Whoever's in office, are they going to sign this into law? Yeah, it will. But I'll be watching it. It's I don't know, exciting to me. Signed into law soon. That's her. Thank you, Senator Klobuchar, for this. Okay. America wasn't the first to use the eagle as a national symbol. We get a mention here. With other examples dating back to Roman times, the bird frequently appears on the fallen empire's memorabilia, including its infamous SPQR governmental seal, and that typically, like you would see the banner with the eagle on it, and then there'd be like a sign on it that says SPQR, which, yes, I always have to look it up. I've known this for years, but I always have to look it up every time. Go ahead.
Benjamin Franklin wanted to be the wild turkey.
Yes. I like the guy a lot, but thank God that he didn't get that one thing, like a turkey is our national bird. I know, isn't that funny? That's great.
What's interesting though is that they had a great big fight about it.
Yeah.
He lost, and that's how it became the eagle, but I guess they never actually wrote it on the piece of paper.
It never became official all these years. And John, thank you again, John, for that. That was an amazing thing. I would have never caught it. So just in the last few weeks, this is, in essence, become official. I think it's also going across the Oval Office desk. But by the way, here's one of my favorite little trivia things because it's so silly and pointless. Which country on earth consumes the most turkey?
That would be Israel.
Ben knows, yes. Because if you ever go to Israel, they eat turkey shawarma every day. Yeah, Israel actually consumes much. Isn't that weird? Anyways, has nothing to do with anything we're talking about here. But so here's the Great Seal of the United States of America. So this has been around all the way back to the Founding Fathers. So the eagle, it was never like codified in law, but it was codified in our Great Seal of the United States, which you'll see on your money, right? And we know that the eagle represents that. Let me finish this article. Here, I got to show off. Senatus Populus Quae Romanus, which means the Senate and the people of Rome, okay? But it always goes with the eagle. There he is, good-looking guy. When the bald eagle was included on the seal for the nearly independent United States in 1782, its place, because you remember the war was still going on, right? Its place as one of the nation's most iconic symbols was solidified, but it was never formally ratified as the official bird. I'm saying we're seeing just this little tiny sliver of end times prophecy right before our eyes, right here. Okay, it's official now. It's law that matters. Thompson created an amalgamation of all three committees' works, which the Continental Congress adopted in 1782, enshrining it as the Great Seal of the United States. So again, it's been on our money, the Great Seal, all the way back to then, but never really official. But at that time, in the wake of the American Revolution, the founders had bigger matters to focus on, good point, like managing a newly independent nation. So the eagle chatter was shelved, and the legality surrounding its status faded into obscurity. So funny, and that probably, this is the end. The House is expected to follow suit and pass the bill, of course, and then the president will. But anyways, so we're. I mean, if you guys think it matters, I definitely think it matters that it's now official, the eagle, and it's literally mentioned in the book of Revelation. So this is our story. We're going to stick to it. And we're going to, obviously, next class, look at how it actually plays out and like kind of, prove this out more. But the theory we're working toward, obviously, is that the Antichrist rises to power, Abomination of Desolation, turns on the Jews immediately, and some country has to go in and rescue the Jews, because that's how it's worded in the book of Revelation. Okay, it's an eagle that comes and takes the Jews to their safe place and then takes care of them there. Okay, twice. Verse 6, and now we're down in verse 14, right? Twice it says in Revelation chapter 12, what other country would it be, you guys? Come on. I mean, if this all happens in the next few years, which it will, what other country would it be? It's got to be the United States. We're now officially symbolized by the eagle, and that's the symbolism we're getting here. So anyways, that's the class for tonight. I think I'm like right on time. Everybody good? Everybody happy? Okay. I was going to say, if somebody wants to ask me a really hard question, we could go over time, but no takers? You're all like yawning. Okay, I'm going to go and watch now. Yeah, Greg, keep your hand down. Somebody tackle Greg. Yeah.
Let me give you trivia instead.
Okay, go ahead.
Why Ben Franklin wanted the turkey instead of the bald eagle was the bald eagle's a scavenger. He didn't want us named after a scavenger. And the turkey back then was actually a wily little bird, and could fly and everything else. It has nothing to do with the turkey we have now.
See, it's a modern processed food. They're eating like Whoppers and fries, so they're all fat now. The turkey, yes, I get it. See, it all makes sense. All right. So, you know what? Since Greg had my favorite question tonight, I'm going to invite him to come up here and close in prayer, please. And you got to stand here so you're on camera for TikTok and everything. But yeah, everybody, thank you for coming tonight. Please come back in 2 weeks, and we're we're going to look at like an idea, like what's the United States actually going to do? How are they going to do it? A lot of other details that I think you'll find like super duper fascinating. That's my commercial. So come and close in prayer. Come back in 2 weeks. Okay.
Lord God Jesus, thank you for this time. Thank you for the people that you put into our lives. From time to time, we don't have the whole picture, but you do. In Jesus' name, be blessed and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. All right. Good job, man. Thank you. Give him a hand. All right. Love you guys. So yes, please come back in 2 weeks. In the meantime, like he said, stay filled with the Holy Spirit. All right. Love you guys.